And welcome back to Evergreen Speedway's Home Track Heroes here on CW11. Kyler Hope, Greg Pylan with you. And we just got done with some pretty exciting mini stock action, green to checkered 30 laps. And now we got 30 laps of quite a few street stocks.
Yeah, and this has been another fun division to watch this season, too. It's been awesome to watch. Ted Lindgren, obviously, is somebody that's out here that's always fun to watch. But you have 3 Hubbards out in the division as well that Mark has been the one, I think, that's been leading the group in the 41 car. But definitely a great group to be able to watch and see.
Oh, yeah, Mike Marthaler, Sheridan Vincent, Jake Grant. It's a very stacked field, and it's hard not to be a fan of this class with all these great-looking cars out here. They put on a great show every single week they come out. So if you're interested in coming out, go check evergreenspeedway.com for a full schedule, and you can see when these guys are out next, as we'll get to your starting lineup. Starting on the front row, pole position, the 49 of Calvin Miller, sponsored by Cuz Septic Service out of Arlington. It is outside the 19 of Jake Grant, sponsored by Stein Staffhouse.
Row 2 brought to you by MTV Motorsports, the 43 of Sheridan Vincent. On the high side, brought to you by Lawn Doctor, is the 14 of Cullen Hubbard.
And the next row, we got the 44 of Mike Marthaler, sponsored by Direct Carpet. It is outside the 45, Nick Beecher, sponsored by Beecher Motorsports.
Row 4 is the 1 of Ted Lindgren, sponsored by Emerald City Harley-Davidson. On the outside is the 41 of Mark Hubbard, sponsored by Interstate Batteries.
And the next row, also sponsored by Interstate Batteries, the 4 of Jeff Hubbard. And it is outside the 69 of Austin Camp, sponsored by At Taxi.
Next, we have the 51 of Jeffrey Watson, and then on the high side, the 52 of Tony Manila.
And then rounding out the field, the 16 of Scott Perkins, sponsored by All About Transmission and Automotive. As they come off the turn number 4, green flag is out for Calvin Miller and Jake Grant as they dive down into turn number 1. A Camaro and a Monte Carlo side-by-side going down into the corner, as Calvin Miller got a pretty good drive off, but Jake Grant seems to carry the momentum on that outside line pretty well.
See a great jump, yeah, like you said, Kyler, at the 19, Jake Grant looking awful solid, but taking that outside lane as you see Calvin Miller in the 49 still hanging on the inside. Next row back, Sheridan Vincent staying in that inside lane, trying to get past there as you see kind of falling back just a little bit maybe of the 69 of Austin Camp, but Sheridan Vincent looking really good, hanging in on that inside lane as you see now Jake Grant in the 19 out in front of the 49 of Calvin Miller as they come out of turn number 4.
Yeah, Calvin Miller hanging that right rear tire out quite a bit early, as with the very hot track conditions, that's going to heat up those tires very quickly and make them very hard and very loose when it comes to steering them, and it can eat up those right rear tires in a hurry as we see that very tight battle. Sheridan Vincent and Cullen Hubbard side-by-side with a couple side-by-side battles behind them.
Yeah, remaining side-by-side fighting there for third place, the 43 of Sheridan Vincent and the 14 of Cullen Hubbard as they come down the backstretch. It looks like Sheridan Vincent able to get the advantage down the backstretch as they come into turn number 3. Calvin Miller right there in front, doing a good job blocking the 43 of Sheridan Vincent as they came out of turn number 4 and head down the front stretch with 26 laps remaining. As you see the 19 of Jake Grant now maybe running away with it just a little bit, but everybody's still within striking distance.
Yeah, Cullen Hubbard being a victim of that freight training we've talked about so much in this show, just the inside line carrying all the momentum, and nothing really Cullen can do besides try to find a gap. Maybe his dad will let him in right here in the 41, but that's unlikely.
Yeah, unfortunate to get to that outside lane. And there you see the 44 of Mike Marthaler, Ted Lindgren in the 1 as they kind of battle back and forth there, heading down the backstretch into turn number 3. But Mike Marthaler, you mentioned him earlier, Kyler, he has been a great addition and a great racer in this division this season as well. It's been so much fun to watch as you see Lindgren and Marthaler kind of battling back and forth. Now you see Marthaler going to the outside of Sheridan Vincent as they head out of turn number 2 down the backstretch. But look at Jake Grant out there and alone in front.
Yeah, Marthaler so close to a championship last year. Had a little bit rocky start to the season, but now he's firing on all cylinders. You see him hanging to the outside, trying to get around Sheridan Vincent, trying to get into a podium spot early. 23 laps to go, but here comes the past champion, Ted Lindgren, in that 1 car to the inside of Mike Marthaler, making his life a little bit more difficult.
So we'll see if the outside lane on the 44 of Mike Marthaler is going to hurt there as you see Ted Lindgren going to the inside right behind Sheridan Vincent in the 43. Marthaler, though, able to get back to the low side, so got out of that wide lane that we saw that has hurt so many other racers in earlier races tonight, and getting back single file as they head down the backstretch.
A ton of power underneath the hood of these cars, as they are definitely one of the louder divisions, as you can tell out here at Evergreen Speedway. And with all that power is a lot of force at those rear tires. They got to try to keep it all underneath them and not hang out those tires too much and wear them down more than they need to. And on a hot day like this, it's very difficult to do that. But Ted Lindgren just passed Sheridan Vincent like he was standing still. That one car has a ton of power and is very hooked up right now.
Yeah, I was just thinking maybe almost had like another gear there in the backstretch going into turn number 3, but saw Sheridan Vincent have to slow down a little bit in anticipation of turn number 3, but Ted Lindgren just steps on the gas just a little bit enough to pass by and able to get to that low lane. And now you see Lindgren trying to take that outside lane on the 49 of Calvin Miller, but able to duck back in on the low side as they go down the front stretch and head into turn number 1. Sheridan Vincent right there, Mike Marthaler right there as well as they continue to battle for the top 3 spots.
Yeah, I think Sheridan might have just let Ted Lindgren go by once he got up to the outside of him. It was like, hey, you know what, you go ahead. I'm going to follow you and see what I can learn from you. Right as I say that, it looks like Sheridan Vincent dove back to the inside of Ted Lindgren, trying to get her back around him. So maybe he learned what he needed to and got back to the inside of him, trying to make that pass.
Just took that opportunity as you're going to see them just out of vision there. They come back in. They're going to be still 2 wide. Sheridan Vincent, Ted Lindgren as they go into turn number 4. Continue to be side by side. Now you see them catching up to the 49 of Calvin Miller, and Ted Lindgren getting the slight advantage that time by with 18 laps to go. But Jake Grant in the 19 still doing awful good out there in front of the 49 of Calvin Miller.
Yeah, Ted Lindgren really likes that outside line, it seems like, in that one car. Right as I say that, he gets really loose going into the corner. Maybe carried a little too much speed. You see him sawing on that wheel. That's going to allow Sheridan Vincent almost to complete the pass going into the corner. As we see Calvin Miller dive on Jake Grant. It looks like second and third place have caught your leader, the 19 of Jake Grant. He's under heavy pressure now from the 49 of Calvin Miller, and Sheridan Vincent, Ted Lindgren, Mike Marthaler, and Mark Hubbard all not far behind.
And a great recovery there by Ted Lindgren that you were talking about, Kyler, too, kind of coming out of turn number 4 a little bit loose, able to only lose 1 spot to the 43 of Sheridan Vincent. But look at Calvin Miller now right behind Jake Grant. Jake had that early lead here as we now almost have 14 laps remaining coming into turn number 3, but able to catch up. And then right behind them, you see Ted Lindgren, you see the 43 Sheridan Vincent. A little bit nerve-wracking here for the 19.
Yep, caution is out. That might be what Jake Grant needed as he was under heavy pressure. That's Scott Perkins around in turn number 1 and 2, it looks like. So we're going to take a little bit of breather right at halfway, come back up to the booth. 15 laps down, 15 to go. Jake Grant, he had a pretty good lead, led all 15 laps so far, and then all of a sudden the 49 Calvin Miller was all over his back bumper.
Yeah, Calvin Miller catching up, and then you saw right behind them Ted Lindgren. You also saw Sheridan Vincent. Right behind them was Mike Marthaler. So many good racers right behind Jake Grant and putting on that pressure.
Yeah, it's been a great show so far. This segment is brought to you by Granite Construction. Granite Construction is the proud sponsor of our Super Sprint Car Series and is approaching their 100th year in business. Granite Construction is an award-winning company and a great place to work. Find your dream job today at graniteconstruction.com. As the lights are out, Speedway Chevrolet pace car about to pull into the infield as we have 15 down, 15 more to go in the exciting NASCAR Street Stock Division.
Be really interesting to see how Jake Grant handles this restart. You see Calvin Miller to the outside, Sheridan Vincent right behind Jake in row number 2, and then Ted Lindgren right on the outside. So good jump here by the 19 of Jake Grant as they get going. Green flag racing here once again with 15 laps to go. But Sheridan Vincent, Ted Lindgren, and Calvin Miller, of course, on that high side as you see him going wide down into turn number 3. But Jake just trying to get back out into that familiar spot out in front and hopefully be able to finish this one off.
Yeah, Calvin Miller, you cannot say that he's not driving hard because you see him hanging that tail end out way off turn number 4 as he is wheeling that thing. But that might have cost him a little bit as Sheridan Vincent is able to get the inside and now completes the pass for second. So we have a new second-place runner, Sheridan Vincent, and a new car for Jake Grant to try to hold off.
It looks like the 41, Mark Hubbard, trying to go wide on Ted Lindgren in the 1 as we saw them coming out of turn number 4. Now going to do the same thing. You see Mark Hubbard there in the 41 going wide once again. You see Calvin Miller going to the high side. Ted Lindgren able to take the low side. Tough spot there for the 49 as you're going to see Mike Marthaler going to try and come low as well. Gets into the 41 of Mark Hubbard. Mark Hubbard gets loose, able to recover and stay side by side miraculously with the 44 of Mike Marthaler.
Yeah, and that did not look intentional, but we definitely know the history between Mark Hubbard and Mike Marthaler, so you never know what's going to happen between the 44 and 41 as that was some pretty heavy contact on the left rear of Mark Hubbard, but you still see him side by side battling. You can see Mike Marthaler's hand steering that wheel a lot coming off the corner. Pretty cool shot there, but back up front, Jake the Smiles Grant has a pretty good lead over Sheridan Vincent, and looks like Ted Lindgren right there as well. Yeah,
and Calvin Miller just back down into 4th, but right behind him you see Hubbard and Marthaler trying to catch up to the 49 car as well, and now you see Mark Hubbard going in single file as they come out of turn number 2. But Jake Grant, Sheridan Vincent, Ted Lindgren, single file as they head down the backstretch into turn number 3. Let's see if the 19 car is able to hang on, as we're going to have just about 13 laps remaining in this NASCAR Street Stock Division race.
Yeah, I think Jake Grant has about showed everything that he can to try to keep the 43 behind him. Sheridan Vincent, I think, is a little bit faster, and with the added pressure of Ted Lindgren now, I think Sheridan Vincent will probably say it's go time and try to get around the 19.
Yeah, now in single-digit number of laps remaining here, you see, like you said, Sheridan Vincent almost applying a little bit more pressure now to Jake Grant. We're not seeing Jake able to run away, but there's something up with the number 1, Ted Lindgren, as he slows down considerably. He was right behind the 43 of Sheridan Vincent and now catches up almost instantly as I'm talking about it. And so something happened there with the 1 car, but able to recover very quickly, as now you see the 43 Sheridan Vincent trying to go inside of the 19 Jake Grant. Unfortunately, catches Jake on turn number 1. We see Mark Hubbard, we see Ted Lindgren, a couple other cars go down into the pit lane. So super bad break there for the 19 of Jake Grant.
Yeah, Colin and Jeff Hubbard having to take evasive action and go over the dirt, but we're going to take another look at it, and I just don't think Jake Grant knew that the 43 was able to close that ground. You see Ted Lindgren having to slam on his brakes to get around the 19 of Jake Grant once he spun. We're going to go on board here with Jake Grant, and yeah, I just don't think he really expected Sheridan Vincent to dive it down that far in the corner.
No, yeah, and maybe another aspect of having those barriers up instead of the tires is usually there's a little bit more room, and maybe the drivers can anticipate that room, but that hard barrier right there, Sheridan Vincent charging hard there on the low side, just got right into the back of the 19, and here we see on board with Ted Lindgren. So too unfortunate for the 19 of Jake Grant.
Yeah, talk about a great save from your past champion, Ted Lindgren, as he was rolling around the high side, saw Jake spinning, and then all of a sudden Jake was right at his doorstep, essentially trying to get in, and such a great driving by Ted Lindgren, able to get around him as the yellow flag or yellow lights are out, green flag about to come back out. Speedway Chevrolet pace car pulling in, as we'll see what Ted Lindgren now has, and Calvin Miller to his outside.
So Ted Lindgren on the low side, Calvin Miller on the high side, then a couple of Hubbards right behind them, the 14 of Colin Hubbard and the 41 of Mark Hubbard, as we are green flag racing here once again. You see Ted Lindgren, no surprise there, going to keep and hold on to that low side. The 49 Calvin Miller is going to get stuck in that high side. You almost saw Mark Hubbard able to take the low side into turn number 3, but great job there by Calvin Miller, able to close the door on the 41 car as they head down the front stretch.
Yeah, Calvin Miller, I don't think his job is done yet, as he has a little bit of smoke coming out. There's maybe a little bit of contact there with Mark Hubbard off that corner, maybe pinch that quarter panel in, but he has definitely a big task ahead of him trying to keep the 41 of Mark Hubbard behind him.
And we've seen the 41 Mark Hubbard taking the outside lane on a couple of different passes here earlier on in the race. The same thing that we saw with Ted Lindgren, but Ted Lindgren out in front, just looking awful smooth now with a pretty substantial lead over the 49 of Calvin Miller as they head down the backstretch. Coming into turn number 3, it's Ted Lindgren, Calvin Miller, Mark Hubbard, your 1, 2, 3, and there's Nick Beecher right behind them in 4th as they come across the start-finish line now with 4 laps remaining.
Yeah, I think the move of the race for sure would be Ted Lindgren able to avoid that spin of Jake Grant right in front of him if he's able to hang on and win this race, as now that smoke in even heavier behind the 49 of Calvin Miller. Looks like it's more than just a tire up at this point, as a black flag is being shown to Calvin Miller as he goes by this time. The mechanical black flag out, as that is just a ton of smoke pouring from behind the 49 car.
Probably really tough, too, for the 41 of Mark Hubbard to be able to see. And you see him maybe backing off just a little bit because he doesn't want to get right behind the 49 of Calvin Miller. But like you said, the mechanical black flag for the 49. And we're going to see the 49 of Calvin Miller continue to race on. And so he's still out there right behind the number 1 of Ted Lindgren. But obviously with that mechanical black flag, it's going to be the 41 of Mark Hubbard that's currently in 2nd place right now.
Yeah, not sure with just how hot it was, if he hung out those tires too much or maybe broke something in the rear end and the rear end shifted a little bit, causing both tires to rub. But white flag is out for your leader, Ted Lindgren. We continue to watch Calvin Miller trying to plead his case to not get the black flag, but looks like coming off the corner, it's going to be all Ted Lindgren with a huge gap over Mark Hubbard, who is technically your new 2nd place runner. And rounding out the new field after Calvin Miller gets black flagged is going to be Nick Beecher on the podium. So head on down to the Angel of the Winners platform.
If you may allow me, you ready? 3, 2, 1. Woo! Yeah. There it is.
I still had a little.
What's on your mind?
That was the hottest thing I've ever been in, I think. Woo! but worth it. That was special. And wow, that was, thank you everybody for being out here tonight. Tough in this, it's special. I swear we can hear you out here. And the street stocks put on a heck of a show for y'all every time out. So it's pretty special.
All right, talk about your help.
All right, I got my number one, my OG AMSOIL sponsor, Don Sass, out here. That thing's been AMSOIL from the beginning. PerformanceLoopSynthetics.com. You know, Mark runs AMSOIL too. Maybe people will catch on to that. So I'll make this quick. Emerald City, Harley, yep. My buddy, EF65, Dave Marriott, my company, AmericanImage.com. But we're gonna do something special here. This buddy right here in the wheelchair, the wheels are only, he's not handicapped. This man's a special guy. He's followed me from day one. He's rocking my old number from last year, 88. And I got something here. It's kind of special for him.
Come on up here.
It's tough to give these up, but this guy, he's awesome, and I think he deserves it.
How about that? Ted Lindgren, your winner tonight. And just kind of when you think you've seen it all, right there's why I come back. How you doing, bud?
I am hot, but man, it feels good to be back on the podium. Missed it last race, so we're here.
Yeah, we are. Talk real quickly, please, about the names on your car, and those are helping you out.
You know, Chuck Collisar, the guy, called me 2 years ago and said, hey, I need a hobby. And I said, I've got one. How much time you got? He goes, whatever it takes. And he's doing tires on all 3 cars, and he hits it every single race. So I love that. Sponsors on our cars, Let's Sack Cancer for Kids, Interstate Batteries, all battery sales and service, Rick Chevron, Rick's Tire and Service, a couple of associate sponsors for me. Oh, bad. This is bad. No. But I'd really like to thank my mom and my dad. Without them, Hubbard Motorsports wouldn't be here.
Take as little time as you want, or as much.
Yeah, no, I just got to thank my crew. Today was a battle. We fought the car all day. It was one of those never give up days. So I really got to thank the Wilkinson family racing crew, Aiden, my dad, Kimmy, my spotter, all my sponsors. They know who they are. This means a lot to be on the podium for the Galloway race. I'm a graduate of the same program that Mark was, that the GMA set program. So this one's really meaningful. Thank you.